right? Here's another view of the same data where you just stack this up over time. Does this look like a good idea to anybody? Does this look inherently sustainable? And I think that's what people are beginning to realize, is that we as human beings, we've all been through high school math. We all talked about the laws of exponents and exponential functions, but we as human beings are not really good at managing the exponential function. And I'm going to give a shout out to a good friend of mine and a fellow Duke graduate named Chris Martinson. Has anyone ever been to the website chrismartinson.com? Great website. Go to chrismartinson.com, watch his videos called The Crash Course, because he does an exceptional job at weaving together three forces that are impacting every bit of our economy today, and a lot of which I'll be closing my talk with. But the analogy that he gives in terms of the exponential function is that if I had a magic eyedropper that could put a drop of water onto the ground, and the volume of that water was such that it doubled every second, and if I was literally tied up, like Houdini, on the top row of, call it Fenway Park, a Major League Baseball stadium, completely watertight, and if that drop of water doubled every second, how long would I have to escape from the top row of seats before I would drown? Any takers? Got 49 hours.
Not very long. 50 seconds.
The answer turns out to be surprising. It's 49 minutes. 49 minutes later, that stadium would be overflowing. But here's the really critical part. After how many minutes would that stadium still be 95% empty, 93 or 95% empty? Just a little bit of water on the field, maybe a couple feet. After 45 minutes, exactly. All the action, all the chaos is in the last 4 to 5 minutes. Does anyone feel like we're living in a chaotic period of American history right now? Yeah, exactly, right? Because this is what we're living through. This isn't a bug. This is a feature. This is the system working as designed. And that's why I say this isn't politics. This is math. The forces driving this they're outside of my control. They're outside of your control. But what we can do is we can choose how we respond to those forces. But it also makes you ask another really good rhetorical question. So if you've got this system where you're creating money based upon loans that you have to pay back, and because of the compounding effect of interest, you need more and more and more people borrowing more and more money to make the money available to service your debt. When you're living in that mathematical world, what do you call a system that requires an increasing supply of new participants to avoid collapse? Exactly, it's a Ponzi scheme, right? Here's our shout out to our favorite neighbor up there at Butner. This guy's got nothing. He's so small. $50 billion, come on, that is nothing. What we're talking about is much more extreme. Now, and here you look at this is what it looks like to be the borrower of last resort, right? This chart here, this is gross federal debt, starting in 1930. And clearly, it's going straight up. So you ask the other question, do trees grow to the sky? Is this sustainable? No, it's not sustainable. And in fact, we've known it's not sustainable for a long time. Here's a quote from a gentleman, Robert Hemphill, credit manager of the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta in 1934. This is one of those quotes you see all over the internet, and I really had to dig and dig and dig to be comfortable actually saying this quote. But this was actually written in the foreword to a book arguing for a gold-backed currency that was published in 1934. But his quote says, "We are completely dependent on commercial banks. Someone has to borrow every dollar we have in circulation, cash or credit. If the banks create ample synthetic money, we are prosperous. If not, we starve. We are absolutely without a permanent money system." It's math. It's not politics, it's math. So then you have to ask a question. This is clearly a suboptimal system. Where does our system of money and central banking originate? And there are many appropriate, possibilities for this question, but anyone want to take a stab? Anyone know where our central bank, this idea of centralization of credit in the hands and a monopoly comes from? Yes?
The second plank of communism.
The fifth, exactly right, yes. Exactly, so it's our good friends, the hammer and the sickle. This is not an American idea. And I tell this to people all the time. They say, well, the Federal Reserve, well, that's federal. It's like, well, okay, Federal Reserve Board, they set the price and they have a monopoly over money. Let's think about this. What do you think about setting up, a federal milk board? And if you want to get your milk, you get it from the federal milk board. The federal milk board is going to set the price. But they only have vanilla milk, so if you want strawberry chocolate, sorry, you're out of luck. Does that sound American to anybody in here? No. I mean, come on, give me a break. This is not what we signed up for, right? This is not the Constitution. But nonetheless, here it is, the Federal Reserve Bank, founded in 1913, centralization of credit in the hands of the state by means of a national bank with state capital and an exclusive monopoly. That's Karl Marx and his Communist Manifesto. We know how that turns out, right? So here's my conclusion, because we are bombarded by misinformation through the mainstream media. Everyone likes to blame our current economic challenges on the free market, on capitalism. They put all of these nice-sounding words, and then they just sully them by saying they're responsible for what we're experiencing. But the bottom line is, when you have the most important commodity in your economy, when the money itself is fiat synthetic credit controlled by a central bank, there ain't no such thing as a free market. There's no free market. There's no free trade. We are living in an economy that is much more reminiscent of Soviet-style communism than any one of us as Americans would like to admit. But more and more people are waking up to the reality that until we take back the very lifeblood of our economy, we are going to be fighting a losing battle. Because if you want to start getting into growing gardens or wheat or chickens or beef, it's not just about producing the food. You've got to navigate these bureaucracies. You've got the Department of Agriculture that's handing out the subsidies and heavily regulating and providing the corporate welfare to consolidate capital in the hands of those who have the best access and the best lobbyists and the best bankers. What's being done in our nation's throughout our nation's history? Again, it's the same rhyme. We've seen this over again. The Federal Reserve is our what? How many central banks have we had?
Third.
This is our third central bank. First two didn't work out so well, so we're trying again. And it's a struggle that's been with us since the beginning. Hamilton thought it was a great idea, Jefferson not so much. I'm guilty. I'm a Jeffersonian, right? I think that the credit idea, the idea that we can have this synthetic system that's managed as a monopoly is not a good idea. So where does this lead in terms of agriculture? There are 3 books, and I apologize, I did not get these to Sherry. I've been running a crazy schedule. I did not get these onto the handouts in terms of the reading list, but I would highly recommend this first book, Everything I Want to Do is Illegal, War Stories from the Local Food Front. This gentleman is a personal hero of mine. His name is Joel Salatin. He has a farm up in the Shenandoah Valley, Virginia. He is a guy who is absolutely maniacally focused on growing the best, most healthy food for his family and his community. And he has tale after tale of just literally food police with guns showing up at his farm trying to compel him to do this or do that, or don't do this or don't do that. And how did we get there? Where did these regulations come from? Well, these regulations that are forcing the food police to roll up to his farm and tell him to stop slaughtering his chickens or processing his chickens, these regulations were not built for the farmer trying to feed his family or the local producer trying to feed his community. They're built for the large agricultural businesses that have armies of bureaucrats and lawyers and people who can manage this regulatory burden. Second thing, Food Incorporated. Anyone seen Food Incorporated? Documentary? Great movie. If you want to see the consequences of an economic system that drives the economy based upon access to credit-based money, watch Food Incorporated, because the rampant consolidation that we have seen over the past, especially 20 years in our agricultural system, have never made us more, we have never been more vulnerable to supply disruptions, food safety issues, and other challenges that we should be concerned about in terms of our basic health and well-being. But the solutions that are coming forth from Washington do not do anything to make our local food systems more diverse and more resilient. No, it's further consolidation of power, and it's further consolidation in the hands of the few and the proud and the lobbyists. Food Fight is another good bill because it really rips apart what's called the Farm Bill, but really it should be called the Food Bill. That's the central planning that goes on every couple of years with the agricultural bill. So as a result, in this environment, so this is the basics, right? This is the marketplace for seeds. So size proportional to global seed market share. The arrows represent ownership interest. So you can quickly see that when you have a system like this, you end up with this odd arrangement of interest where you've got 1, 2, 3, and pretty much an oligopoly of major multinational corporations who control the entire seed business. Interesting. Okay, food for thought.